What data exists related to age groups that have most interest in joining and why? And before I have Brian answer the specifics of that question, we have lots of data from lots of sources that are reliable that answer that question. And again, I think the question's great, but I also think that there's another question that we ask, and that is, as we walk into a room, as we try to attract nobles, maybe we ought to be thinking more about what's your name, how you doing, what do we have in common, and trying to make that connection. So we can sort of get into data and talk about how the demographics work, and again, that's productive discussion. But I think genuinely caring probably goes a lot more to making the connection we're trying to make than analysis of the data. And I think that we need to demonstrate, not just talk about, but demonstrate a genuine desire to have each person become part of our organization. And I think that if we do that, that is going to overcome the answer Brian's going to give you with regard to what the data says. Brian, you want to take that?
Yeah, and so we'll discuss the data from two perspectives. Empirically, what do we have specific to the numbers that we've calculated within the shrine? But also anecdotally, what are we seeing in the broader community of nonprofit management and, as we found, in for-profit management? What's critical to understand is there is a huge desire for a fraternal bond. There's been many institutions that were once viewed as solid and unwavering that people are simply not looking to for that fraternal bond, and that could be a range of different areas, but they're no longer relevant to many of the age groups that we're talking about. There's a natural distrust, unfortunately, in them. But that desire to belong still exists. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the anecdotal information or data that we have, and then we'll talk about it empirically. So anecdotally, what we're seeing is this. Many organizations are entering into the fraternal space because they see the value to a membership model. And so as an example, trade associations or professional organizations that were typically defined their networking by professional networking are now looking at creating a deeper fraternal type bond. The basis being 1 hour of fun is equal to 24 hours of business. That was not necessarily the experience that they were seeking to deliver, but now that's a focus. And so they're creating a fraternal bond within their membership that's far now exceeding just their industry that they represent. Another example is what you could call as common houses. These are not country clubs, but they are kind of relevant by way of their membership model. They offer a space to have dining, they have a space to work, they have a space to host activities, and it's just a fun environment to visit. That has grown exponentially, and I can assure you the membership fee for initiation and monthly fee far exceeds anything you're going to see in masonry. That is blowing up in terms of younger communities. Then you have special interest groups that, especially in major cities, that are now growing that never were there previously. These are clubs that require an initiation and a membership that's dedicated and circles around specific activities. For example, it could be cigars, or it could be wine, it could be high-end liquor. Whatever that might be, they're creating a fraternal bond around it with a for-profit membership model. Folks, all this we do within our fraternal model. So what we're seeing is that men and women 50 and under are joining these groups substantially, and they're looking past the traditional fraternal model. Now, within the shrine, what we have, similar to Project 357, is that we're identifying what nobles are interested in and what our prospective members are interested in. And so I have some data here. We break that into 6 categories. And these are categories that many organizations within the greater Masonic community offer: volunteer service, leisure activities and recreation, social gatherings, sports and adventure, occupation, interest, and professional development, and the last is musical performing and parading. And so these are the areas that we evaluate, and we ask prospective members and our existing members to identify so that we can better serve what they're looking for. Now, the least interested area in terms of why people would want to join is musical performing and parading, by a substantial amount. We're not talking small, we're talking about only 40% of the people that said, hey, I want to be a Shriner, was interested in that. Of those 6 categories, the lowest. The highest was actually leisure activities and recreation. So they're looking for exactly what we're seeing out in the world beyond fraternities is exactly what our members are saying they want. They want that leisure activities and recreation in one spot. Folks, we have that. That's where we need to invest. The second and third ones are exceptionally close. Volunteer service at 74% and social gatherings at 73%. The data that we have here is consistent with exactly what's happening in the greater world. Folks, we have a choice. We either look at our fraternal model and we focus on that fraternity, meaning we focus on the brotherhood first, or sisterhood if that's your model, and then look at other areas. And so what we've also seen in collegiate fraternities and sororities is this: collegiate fraternities are declining. And these are the members that often compose the fraternal models because they're used to the collegiate fraternals models. Sororities are exploding. The big difference between the two is this, setting aside that more women are entering into college. The biggest difference is this: a sorority focuses first on sisterhood and then their philanthropy. Those women are looking for that bond, right, that they're not finding in those traditional structures. The fraternities are struggling. They focus on their philanthropy first and their fraternity second. When those men are seeking that bond between brothers, they're finding an organization that's focused more on the philanthropy. And so they're declining rapidly. The point is this: if we're to succeed as an organization, putting additional resources and focus on the fraternal bond will be a determining impact of whether or not we grow or not.
Right, and Brian, everything I've seen, studies are actually saying that loneliness right now is actually a serious problem. I mean, it's a real problem in our world, and people are anxious and to have a real friendship, real friend, not just somebody that I know, not an acquaintance, but a real bond. The other thing that, as you were speaking, I was sort of laughing about, as things always cycle through. You're talking about how trade associations now are going to a fraternal model. Well, gosh, imagine 300, 400 years ago, a group of guys who work with bricks deciding that maybe there ought to be some more of a fraternal model, and then bankers start joining this group that they later call Freemasons. So we are extraordinarily well positioned. We've been there before. We've done this before. So we simply need to get back to our roots and actually have the fraternal bonds that will make us successful. It is not, as Anthony was saying before, let's not overthink this thing. Let's get to it. So I think your comments are right on the button.